It has been 5 years, exactly, since the deadly Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. 2017, you'll remember far-right extremists marched through the University of Virginia campus with torches in their hands, saying Jews will not replace us. They were protesting the removal of a Confederate statue. The next day, they clashed with counter-protesters, and a vehicle driven by a rally-goer ran into a crowd of pedestrians, killing a 32-year-old woman and leaving dozens of others injured. Newsy Justice correspondent Jamal Andrus is live tonight in Charlottesville. Jamal, it's hard to forget the shock. The nation just felt this shock that weekend this was happening. What's it like in the city today?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chance. You know, people here handle this event in so many different ways. You mentioned Heather Heyer, who was killed that weekend. Her mother, Susan Bro, generally leaves the city during this time, not wanting to be a part of the kind of commiseration and activities that are going on here. But the one constant across this city seems to be just vivid memories of exactly where people were and what they were feeling on that weekend. In August 2017, white supremacists descended on Charlottesville, Virginia.
August 12th was just a day of a lot of violence and really frightening white supremacy, overt white supremacy. The level of violence and just overt racism and white supremacy was really frightening.
The violent weekend 5 years ago saw hundreds of neo-Nazis and white nationalists gathering at the feet of Confederate monuments. For the people who were there, it's a moment they will never forget. Kendall King was one of the dozens of students that stood their ground as neo-Nazis surrounded and intimidated them.
They had weapons. They had torches, but they also had pepper spray. I'm sure some of them were armed with guns. I'm glad that the violence didn't escalate any more than it did that night.
The weekend culminated with an act of terror when a car barreled down 4th Street into a crowd of peaceful protesters. Along with the dozens who were injured, Susan Bro lost her daughter that day. Bro says she's trying to share some of the spotlight she's received.
I felt like when Heather was killed, a mantle was passed to me, and now I'm finding ways to pass that mantle on to other people. Heather was not the only person ever killed by a hate crime in America.
In the wake of the Unite the Right rally, calls to remove Charlottesville's Confederate monuments intensified. Ultimately, both statues were removed in 2021. Charlottesville activists like Ben Doherty had been working on their removal for years. Now that they're gone, Doherty hopes it creates a more welcoming space for everyone.
The two parks where the Jackson and Lee statue were located are actually very pretty parks. People often will not feel welcome, but I'd like to think they at least feel more welcoming to people than when you had these huge, ugly, racist statues dominating the parks.
A group of about 200 or 300 of them came and they took out their tiki torches.
Jelaine Schmidt, a UVA professor and city activist, was at a nearby church across the street while King and others came face to face with hundreds of neo-Nazis.
We were having a prayer service, and it was meant to prepare the community for what was coming the following day.
Schmidt says it wasn't until she got home that she found out there were students out there.
The university did its own kind of internal investigation, and at first they were rather guarded and quite frankly not very honest, about what had happened.
In the years since the deadly rally, a lot of the loose ends in Charlottesville have been tied up. James Fields was sentenced to 2 life sentences for the death of Heather Heyer. And in November, a federal grand jury ordered more than a dozen white nationalists and organizers of the rally to pay $25 million in damages to 10 current and former residents of Charlottesville. But for those who stood face to face with hate that day, this movement is ongoing and is much bigger than Charlottesville.
We'll never move on. I mean, the trauma that we went through is ongoing and ever present and real.
Doherty says white supremacy is in the country's DNA.
We fully realize that the United States is a white supremacist country built on white supremacist structures, and there is a lot of work still to be done to tear down those structures.
Schmidt says the Charlottesville rally 5 years ago gave wide exposure to a racist threat of America that has not gone away.
There's a straight line between what happened here in Charlottesville at the Unite the Right rally and the attack on the Capitol. So these people are, are quite determined to make political changes by force.
Now, tomorrow there's going to be a vigil walk from a local church here in town down to Heather Heyer Way, which is just a couple blocks away from us. And they're going to stop at the makeshift memorial for Heather Heyer that was put up 5 years ago.
Jamal, I know you've been talking with people who experienced this firsthand. This is their community. They weren't sitting somewhere watching this on TV horrified. They were there 5 years later. Is it still kind of fresh?
Yeah, absolutely, Chance. Something myself and my colleague Stephanie Sandoval, who's been reporting here with me, have noticed while we've been on the ground is just how vivid this memory stands out to folks that live here. Not only that, but a lot of them not only blame the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists that came here and sort of invaded this town, but also the local authorities and the police here, who they say did not adequately warn them about what was coming. And to their credit, an independent investigation from a federal prosecutor in 2017 backed up some of those claims, saying that the local authorities were inadequately prepared for the rally, that they were passive with demonstrators in the first night on August 11th of 2017, and that emboldened those demonstrators for the second night, August 12th, 2017, and finally did not properly coordinate with other law enforcement on the day of. Chance.
5 years later, still vivid. Jamal Andrus live tonight in Charlottesville. Thanks.